Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 327, How Your Childhood Still Shows Up in Your Relationships. My conversation with Mark and Lynetta. Well, today I'm joined by Mark Siedler and Lynetta Avery. They work with people who keep finding themselves in the same relationship situations, having the same arguments, feeling pulled toward the same kinds of partners, and wondering why nothing they try seems to change it. Their work focuses on what's actually happening in the moment when things go sideways in relationships, and how to interrupt those patterns without blame, fixing, or therapy language. I have them on today because I love how they speak from their lived experience and other really practical ways to slow things down, see the pattern clearly, and respond differently when it matters most. In this conversation, we talked a lot about ways we can begin to identify what patterns we tend to repeat in relationships, how they almost always seem to stem from childhood experiences, and then some of the things that Mark and Lynetta have learned in their own relationship. And that's why I wanted to have them on. Unfortunately, some of the audio towards the end did not record correctly, so we didn't get to do a formal goodbye in the conversation, but their information is in the show notes. And you can find everything there to connect with them. Okay, so let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Mark and Lynetta. Well, Mark and Lynetta, I'm so excited to have you here. And last time we talked, I think we had just a great discussion about all this stuff. So I'm really dying to get into it. So welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us back.
And thanks for being so involved in this yourself. We love everything that you do. It's awesome, all the work you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Own It is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome title, because really it's about taking
It's all about
100%,
that.
100% responsibility gives you an empowered life.
In fact, before I met Lynetta, I made a declaration. It was a few years before, when I had been in a marriage for 21 years where my wife would not own it. In fact, the last couple of years of the marriage, she would point the fingers at me, and every sentence out of her mouth was, my life's not working because you, blah, blah, blah. For a couple of years till I said, honey, we're done. And then I hadn't learned my lesson yet. I had a girlfriend for a year and a half afterwards, and I realized she wasn't owning it either. So I actually, at the end of that, I made a declaration. I looked myself in the mirror and I said, hey, this is not going to work either. We have to get out of this relationship. And we're going to have a relationship where the woman's going to be loving. They were both loving on a certain level. And I said the word powerful, but by powerful, I meant somebody who would own it. And when I made that declaration, I didn't know what that would look like because I had never seen it. I had no role models for anybody I had seen who took that kind of ownership of all their internal stuff instead of finger pointed. But I made the declaration, and it wasn't until I met Lynetta, it was like, oh, this is what it looks like. But I just made the declaration. That's what I'm going to have. So we're totally aligned with owning it.
That's great.
The most important thing.
It is. It's everything.
In fact, when one of our criteria before we coach somebody is, are they willing to commit to taking ownership, basically, because if not, there's nothing to do. It doesn't matter how good our coaching techniques, our tools are, our love for them is, our desire to support them. If they don't want to take that personal ownership, nothing's going to change. No shift.
You're right.
Yep.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
So Today, we're going to talk about why we repeat the patterns in our relationships, why they keep showing up after years of therapy, personal growth, and spiritual work. And Mark, you started talking about that, but can you both tell me your journey of how you got here? How did you get here coaching people on relationships?
Well, I had a lot of heartbreaking relationships first. I'd say 7 were really, really tough.
Well, I'd say let's back up.
Mhm.
You can't do this without going back to childhood.
Right. Right.
Because where do we learn our first relationships? From our family.
Mhm.
And we
Right.
both had major dysfunction in our families. We had
Right.
dads who could be physically abusive.
Mhm.
We had all kinds of weird sexual models from both parents.
Mhm.
Lynetta had religious stuff and all those rules also.
Mhm.
So it's like, and there was just major dysfunction, more in Lynetta's family than mine. You know, mine looked, well, they both kind of looked good on the
They look
surface.
good on the
From the outside,
yeah.
they look great. In
Yeah.
fact, like people would say,
Right.
like, God, you must be so lucky to have a dad like
Oh my
you.
gosh.
And I was like,
Uh,
I didn't say anything to any of their friends, but I'd like, inside I was like, boy, if you only knew what really goes on behind closed doors.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, no.
And everybody
Yeah.
on both sides of my family were like, gosh, we wish we were living at your home and had your parents, because it looked really good.
So
Yeah.
I would say there's a few things we have a lot of similarities, even though
Mm.
there's major differences,
Mhm.
things that we picked up from our families regarding relationships.
Yeah.
First of all, I would say there was no honoring at all,
No.
either of our families.
No.
There was like my dad was like absolute ruler of the castle, and like you did what he wanted or you got hit. Like there was no if ands,
Mhm.
so my needs and desires really didn't count.
Mhm.
Lynetta, you didn't dare express anything emotional.
Yeah.
Like emotions, not allowed.
Mhm.
And in fact, if you had a need, you might get ridiculed for it.
Oh, yeah. There was a
Right.
lot of sarcasm, criticism, being teased for. So you didn't really want to share anything close to your heart, because that would be potential tease,
Right. And even when Lynetta started to get counseling in her teens, after one session where her dad picked her up, he actually made fun of her.
Yeah.
Like for getting counseling.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you, crazy?
Right.
What are you,
It's like,
nuts?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, Dad, I am
Oh.
because of you.
Yeah.
She didn't say it.
Yeah.
Context is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it started there, and my
Mhm.
model was my parents and how their relationship, how they related with each other. So I looked up to them. It's natural as a child to look up to these big people in your life, like they are showing you the example of how to be in
Right.
relationship. You're the very first model,
hmm
So what I saw with them was, the most fun thing that they did was I'd see them running to the bedroom, and, later on in life, because they were kind of open about what was going on, was they were going and having sex. Even us kids, when Dad would get in a bad mood, would say, Mom, please go have sex with Dad. Now I'm like, I don't think this is normal. Is this normal? I don't know. No.
Oh, you like this, do you? Oh, Mary's cracking up here. She can't believe it. Oh, we got
Oh,
lots
and
of
I've heard a
shockers
lot of
for you,
things.
Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought I'd heard it all by this point.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And he would come out so happy, like he would be a
Oh.
different person. So that sent a very clear message. Plus, Mom would say, honey, you don't need to learn how to cook in the kitchen. You need to learn how to cook in the bedroom to keep your man. So that was my advice.
Oh, there's another look. I
Another
think we're 2 for 2 with Mary now.
Yeah. And then as I started bringing boys over when I was like 17, then my dad would say, I'm a guy, and let me tell you what guys want. They just want to get in your pants. So
Mm.
I got messages real clear that that's what it was about. So I thought if I mastered my skills in the bedroom, then I would get and keep my man, basically.
Mm.
So even when I met Mark, I was still using those masterful skills.
How explicit can we be on this, Mary?
Keep it PG.
Yeah.
PG? Okay,
PG.
we're going to skip that story.
Okay. But anyway, Mark said that it was performance. And he didn't want performance. He wanted real me. And I start crying because I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And like, if that's what you want, then I need a sabbatical because I need to figure out what that is. You know, what would be the authentic me without me trying to
perform and
keep my man. Keep my man happy.
Yeah.
You know, I really believed it. That's the lens I was looking through, and it worked on every other guy, except those relationships fell apart because they were not real authentic. You know, not me, and I'm sure I was attracting not authentic men as well.
Right.
So that's what creates it comes from the foundation. Tracing, you can, if you look at the guy you're with, if you see some patterns repeating, take it back to your childhood and see how close those patterns are to what you had as a child. And then you can reframe that attraction and this passion you feel. Like I used to say, oh, my heart is telling me I have to go with this guy. You know, I feel my knees are going weak. I have butterflies in my belly. And like all of those feelings are also what happens when you're in a dangerous situation. you get weak knees, you get butterflies. When
alarm bells need to go off.
And look at what you're calling attraction. You may need to look at it from a different lens of, wow, is this a pattern? Is this a pattern of, I remember mom and dad had the same dynamic between them that I'm having right now with this partner. And it feels like home. It's familiar. It's comfortable. It's like putting on those slippers that you've been wearing a long time and they're contoured to your feet. Yeah, but they got some like nasty holes in the bottom of them, you know?
And some lumps digging into the bottom of your feet.
Right. You're really going to step in it too, aren't you?
Yeah. So those, you'll see those repeating, and you may choose somebody who's a little different because you're like, okay, the last guy, he was in prison. So I don't want a guy who goes to prison. So I choose somebody that was, a good standing citizen that wasn't going to get in trouble with the law. But then they'd have other things like being an alcoholic, or I had a lot of drug addicts, alcoholics, and then I saw that I had codependency tendencies, so I went to Codependence Anonymous, and then I saw that all these women, everybody in the room was sharing patterns that happened when they were younger. They could trace it back to when they were a child, and they were in relationships with these alcoholics and addicts because it really mirrored their families. And neither one of my parents were drug addicts or alcoholics, but they had both sex addict tendencies and religious addiction.
Right.
So
now mine was a little different, though we had some similarities. I did not like the way my dad treated my mom. So I kind of said to myself, well, I'm not going to have that kind of a relationship. And when I got married, I decided I was going to be very supportive and attentive to my wife. But what happened is, because of my dad, I really kept my needs as much as possible undercover. Like I learned, don't express what you need or want because it will be used against you. It'll be dangled like, oh, you want that? Well, here's what you need to do. So it's like better to not let my needs be known if there's any way possible. And I kind of did the same thing in the marriage. I tried to be the good husband. Also, I'd been raised Jewish, actually studied, got ordained as a rabbi, and it's all about being a good husband and father. And I did that for a bunch of years. And my former wife clearly had some abuse from her childhood. Like she was morbidly obese, and I knew something must have happened, but she had no memories of it. And I figured she would just deal with it over time. But what happened is not only did she pile stuff on her body, but she started piling stuff in our house. And she became one of those classic hoarders like you see on a TV show. We had a 4-bedroom house and we lived in Florida, and literally 2.5 rooms were filled. Like, you'd open the door to a room and there was boxes and stuff this high, just filled our house with stuff. And I tried to be the good husband, and she'd say, well, I'll have free time after this Jewish holiday or after our son's in school or whatever. And I was like, fine, honey. But after about 10 years of this, I was like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. She's never going to take care of this stuff. So eventually I was like, I started to say, you know what? I'm ignoring my needs, but I couldn't get anything to actually happen until when she went away for a trip to help her mom in New York, who was sick at the time. I took the opportunity to hire some people and literally go through all the stuff in the house. And she was gone for like a week. And like 2/3 of it was like newspaper clippings and like just garbage, literally, that we recycled or threw out. And we ended up with a small pile in one corner of the living room, like 15 or 20 boxes. That was the only stuff that was significant for her to go through. And I thought when she came home that she'd be like thrilled that I had done this. And she took a look at it and she was furious. Not what I anticipated. I thought she'd be grateful. In fact, she was so furious that she went in the bedroom and slammed the door so hard she made a hole in the wall with a doorknob. And things did not get better after that. Surprise, surprise. Until finally, I said, honey, it's just time to call it quits. And it ultimately came to that personal responsibility, that owning it, that you're all about. It's like, yeah. So I didn't learn how to, really pay attention to my own needs going back to my childhood in relationship. And I did that in my marriage, and I did that in the next relationship for 1.5 years, till I did literally one session with a friend of mine. And she said, it's okay to get angry, and to tune into your own needs. And I was like, oh, wow. I had reacted against my dad to the extent that I never wanted to be angry and express it with somebody, but when she gave me permission, I came home and I told my son off, told my girlfriend at the time off, and both of them were like, what's going on with you? And I'm like, this is not acceptable. I will not have this in my house. And everybody's like, oh, who is this guy? What happened? These go back to my patterns also, a little different than Lynetta's, but it's like, you have to, be aware of your past and be aware of how it's led you to be the way you are right now, if you want to change it and create a new life for yourself. And that's exactly what Lynetta and I have done. And we're going on our 12th year of marriage now. And we have the best relationship. It is so amazing. But that's because we've done our work. Yeah. We've looked at that stuff and we've put it into practice.
But one thing I would like to offer to those who are listening is, first of all, we get where you are. You're feeling like you're on a hamster wheel that you can't get out of. And coming from the thinking and the lens and experience that you've had from your past, from your childhood, we totally get you. We of course, that's how you reacted, considering the kind of childhood you had with what little resources you had to come up with, resources all on your own. You weren't given the tools to deal with it. So you did the very best you could, and your best was good enough. And you know why we know that? Because you're here now and you're listening to this podcast. And if you weren't, what a shame it would be that you were not here. You would not have survived. So we want to first of all acknowledge you for doing whatever it took to survive sometimes an impossible situation in your family home. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it takes a lot of bravery and courage and all those survivor skills that served you are great because they got you here.
Yeah.
Like you said, Lynetta. Unfortunately, like you were saying, Mark, oftentimes some of those survivor skills is swinging the pendulum to the opposite of what our situation was growing up. And that ain't terribly healthy either.
No.
Typically, it has its own set of issues. Right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people growing up with that stuff tend to think in black and white because it's safer. And so, like you said, I don't want to be abusive, so I won't have any boundaries or needs, right? And healthy somewhere in the middle. And so what if someone has been doing a lot of therapy and they know what their patterns are, but they still end up in these relationships? Where do you guys want to begin with that? How do you work with people around changing that?
Well, the very first thing that Mark did with me when he was helping me, because when I got another myth I want to debunk is that you have to have all your shift together before you get in a relationship. And if you want a healthy relationship, you may be thinking, oh, I have to have all my ducks in a row. Well, my ducks were everywhere and they were pooping on everything.
Andy, that's great. I love that analogy. Duck poop everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mark swooped me up because he saw something deeper. He saw underneath that I had the willingness to own my own stuff. I wasn't pointing the finger. I was not playing victim. I was taking ownership of everything. And I was still stuck. I was really stuck. I needed a partner. And I actually created that my next partner would be somebody who loved to do transformational work. They're a coach. They've done their work already, and we do it together. And that is what makes our relationship so awesome, is that I have a partner who also does his inner work, who also loves to support me in doing my transformation work, and we coach each other. And if you have a relationship like that, oh my gosh, you can literally transform anything.
And it doesn't hurt that we're both trained as massage therapists. So.
Oh, that helps a lot.
That wasn't on the list, but it's a nice bonus.
Yeah. So I want to go into the very first tool that I offer people is, of course, and this is what Mark used with me, is, of course, acknowledgments. Now, I touched on it a little bit a minute ago when addressing who's listening. Of course, acknowledgement is saying, of course, you feel the way you do. Of course, you're repeating this pattern. Of course, you've been working on yourself for years and it's still repeating over and over. And it's this level of acceptance and embracing you right where you are, which is why these patterns came up in the first place. You were not being acknowledged for what you felt when you felt it at the moment. So wherever you are right now, one of the best medicines you can give yourself, it's like arnica for the soul, is to acknowledge that wherever you are right now, whatever you're feeling, even if you're frustrated and repeating the same patterns, to acknowledge yourself first. Don't take any step further until you acknowledge where you are and give yourself that gratitude and that embrace and even appreciation for what it has given you. There are nuggets. There are little kernels and gold nuggets that you can harvest from your experience. It's given you grit, for one thing. You know?
Right.
Yeah. And what Lynetta is hinting at is we as children had to adapt to stuff that children should not have had to, whatever we've all gone through. And, now we can see how, I have some patterns. Like you might have an addiction to something, for example, or you might get easily triggered if somebody, just looks at you the wrong way or has a slight tone in their voice and man, you're just set off. So whatever adaptations we all have, when we come to awareness of them, a lot of time there's shame and guilt. And if we have shame or guilt, it's like we have the adaptation to deal with and find more concrete ways that are supportive of clearing it. And we also have shame and guilt on top of it for those adaptations. And once you've got shame and guilt, you kind of can't get anywhere. It's like, oh my God, I never should have gone down this path. So when Linda says that, I said, of course, to her, it's like there's so many, she's led the really checkered or colorful life, especially compared to me. Like Lynetta has done everything that I mostly have not. She went down the drug path. She went down the sex path. I mean, you name it, she did it. And she even went down the bad mom path, because how could she be a good mom when look how she was raised, and that, of course, man, if you're a parent and you think you've screwed up your kids because you didn't have the tools to raise them, man, I don't think there's a bigger guilt than that, especially for moms, because man, it's like the biggest sacred duty of a mom is to raise their kids. Like there's really nothing higher than that. And if you consider yourself a bad mom because of the stuff you were going through and you just couldn't be there for your children, that's huge. And the fact that, Lynetta did what she did in all these domains, when I heard her stories of what she had gone through as a child, I was like, and I'm totally serious, I was like, I might have seen something like this on a TV show, but I have never met anybody in real life who had gone through everything that you went through. And I was like, honey, honestly, I don't think I would have survived what you did. And it's like, yeah, you turned to sex, alcohol, drugs, whatever. It's like, man, I think I just would have opted out having gone through all that. And yet you survived it. So the fact that you resorted to those things to just help you survive until you could actually get to a place where you could start processing it all and then become the awesome, amazing human being you are now. It's like, that's what's behind the, of course. What else would you expect of a child? A 7-year-old, a 9-year-old dealing with some of the crap we've gone through. It's like, yeah, of course she did all that. And that takes away the shame and the guilt of it. And then you can start to apply different techniques to actually release those old ways and find more supportive ways to deal with all these issues.
That very first step is not making myself wrong for adapting in the way that I did. In fact, we call it intelligence. That adaptation is,
we actually say it's brilliant.
Highly
it's brilliant.
Intelligent.
Whatever you did, even if you turn to addictions, it's like, hey, that was a brilliant way to deal with something impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. So acceptance first, and then what? So they look at you and say, okay, well, now what? How do I stop getting in these relationships? Why do I keep having these patterns?
So the next step that I would take is to go back. For me, this is what I do, is I go back into those childhood, whatever's triggering me in the moment, whatever in the moment is your trigger, the thing that's just getting you right in the kishkas. That's the thing to go back and trace. Is there something that happened way back in my childhood that is reminding me of what's going on right now? Because we always say, like, it's not the person in front of you is pushing your button, but they are not the original source of it.
They didn't install the button in you. Your family's did.
Yeah.
They're just pushing it.
So I go back and I trace it, and I can always find a memory of something will just pop into my mind. Like, it may be something as simple, and this is a big one for me, was when I first made my bed for the very first time at 7 years old. I had been watching my mom do it for years, and I thought I had it down. So I made my bed. I thought I did a great job at it. I went to go get my mom. I'm like, Mom, come see what I did. I thought I was going to get praised finally. And when she walked in the room, all she saw was wrinkles, and she began to remake it. And I was looking at it going, what did I do wrong? And for me, some people might think, what's wrong with her? But I looked at me and said, well, what's wrong with me? That I didn't make a good bed. So I got very discouraged and said, well, I'm not going to why even bother? So I can trace back whenever a guy is saying, if Mark were to say, oh, Lynetta, I found a spot on the dish, I'd be like, oh, see, I don't even know how to wash dishes. Never mind. I'm never even going to wash another dish again. So that is something that goes way back to, it's way out of proportion. That's something, that'll give you a telltale sign is it blown way out of proportion? Wait a minute, this has to go back there. So, and then what I've done lots of revisions on working with my younger self. And I've come back to this scene over and over because it still was there. And if that memory still keeps coming back, you still are getting triggered in the present moment, then you haven't revised it in a way that's totally sticking with you. It's not done in a way that really works. And I've had people coach me through it. I've had, lots of work on that, but I finally got to where I said, look, and I only did this recently, like 3 days ago. I had a beautiful bed. We were visiting another home that we have a friend that has let us use her home, and she's got a big, gorgeous bed. So I walked in. I said, little Netta, I'm going to show you how to make a bed. I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing. So I stripped it. I brushed off all the debris, we get little sand in our bed. And I said, this is preparing so that when we slip into the bed later tonight, you're going to feel so good when you slide in and there's no dirt in the bed. And so I'm imagining my little girl is doing this with me. And we're doing something physical with the whole body. See, all the other times I had replayed it and revised it in and rewrote it, reframed it in my mind. But I didn't do the physical action of making the bed and showing my little girl, hey, this is how, if you really want one that feels good when you get in the bed, then this is what we do. And doing it in a fun way. I wasn't criticizing her. I was just saying, honey, I'm just going to show you. Nobody ever even taught you. You just watched your mom, but she didn't teach you how to do it and why she was doing what she was doing. So once I did that and completed that, oh my gosh, and the bed was gorgeous and it felt so good that evening. We slid in and it felt, just wonderful to slide into. And my little girl went, oh, that's why. And it was a full body experience. So for me now, I really get the connection. You could do the consciousness work, but also bring in the somatic piece where you're actually physically doing something that's going to revise. And now I am 60 years old and I feel that, and it had a huge impact on me. It was a pivotal point where I made a decision about myself and how I was going to be in the world from that bed making scene. It could be that simple. And to me, that was traumatic.
Absolutely. And incredible. You reparented her and took it off her as a child, because kids are very egocentric up until like 9 or 10 when they start getting snarky. Well, that's why they're getting snarky. Yeah. Because they're individuating. Yeah. They're like, oh, hell no. Yeah. But until then, whatever we tell them, they take it as
God-given truth.
Them.
They do.
And so you convinced her that it was never about her, that this is why we do things. And you did the gentle parenting and the instruction. Like, people don't talk about that unmet childhood need enough, I don't think. Like, no one taught you. No. And yet they expected you to already know how to do it because that's how they were raised. Yep. And so you healed that for her. And so what I'm hearing you say is, so noticing, where does this trigger come from? Yeah. What is my earliest memory of feeling this way when this button gets pushed? But you also added another layer, Lynetta. You're like, and what does it mean about me?
Yes.
Because that makes so much sense, because our worst reactions in relationships, I think, are all trauma responses.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we're afraid that we're not okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Not just what we did isn't okay. And it's not that
We're
they're
not.
confronting and
We're
saying
not okay.
that we're
100%.
not okay.
Yep.
Mhm. Yep. And there's another percentage of people that will say there's something wrong with my parent. It's not me. There are some that take that route. It's less, but there are
Right.
some. But what their issue then is going forward, it's always other people are doing stuff that's wrong, and they may not own it. They may be so far on the other side that they will not own it. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. So how do people respond to this work when you coach them? What are you guys noticing?
Wow.
Hmm.
Well, we've experienced breakthroughs in them saying, "Oh, wow. I can't even remember what it was that was triggering me." Like it could be that complete for them that they just don't even remember what the original trigger was because it's so gone. And I've experienced that for myself. I mean, when you've really cleared
When you've
it,
cleared it.
when you've really
It's
cleared
cleared.
it, it's like, what were we, that's why we record everything. We record like every morning. If we're going to do
We often talk for a couple hours in the morning. We first wake up early.
and we'll clear
and
each
we just
other.
record it. And
if we don't, we can't remember. We're like, what
Isn't it
did
wild?
we clear this morning? I can't even
right. 'cause
remember
the
it.
energy,
It's
the
gone.
upset is gone. But what was your question exactly, Mary?
I was just kind of asking out of curiosity, like, what has been your response from clients where, are they open to doing this work? Have you noticed, like,
Mm,
what are you noticing when you help other people do the work? Because it's one thing to do it on yourself, but
right.
Yeah.
are you noticing people? Are you noticing anxiety or resistance at first to doing the childhood work?
Well, let's go to where we've coached both singles to help them manifest the ideal relationship and couples. Let's talk for a moment about couples. I'd say the biggest problem couples have is either fighting or not fighting, meaning like stonewalling or, the opposite, but still fighting, if you will.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
silent fighting.
Yeah.
Right.
That's probably the biggest issue. And when we really bring home, the whole trigger idea,
Mhm.
and that they're not fighting with each other, they're stand-ins for their parents,
Mm.
Mhm.
and they get it. And everybody gets that because we can almost, like Lynetta said, like we'll ask them, does this remind you of something from your past? And they'll go, oh yeah, my mom used to do that to my dad. Doesn't take a lot of digging most of the time. So we get them to realize it's a trigger, but then you still have to deal with it on the current level. And then it comes down to, so what is it people really want? They want to be seen, heard, and understood
Mhm.
more than anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we communicate that.
Getting into each other's worlds.
Right. So we teach them active listening. So it's like if one of them has an upset, we'll say, okay, I want you to say slowly exactly what you're upset about. Now, the biggest problem couples have is when somebody says something, well, you told me you were going to take the trash out and you didn't do it. The immediate reaction is what? Defend. Well, I was exhausted, I thought you would, and it's like, the problem is the upset that your partner has that you didn't do what you said is more important than the act itself. It's like how you feel about things is more important than the thing.
Mhm.
So people want to be seen, heard, and understood. So when that comes up, instead of going on defense, and it's hard because, especially as children, we may have been trained to be on defense. I was, my way of being was always figure out what's going to be the right thing to say to maybe get you in less trouble,
Yep.
keep you safe,
Oh, wow.
not get hit.
Yep.
So like,
Yeah.
I'm always like, okay, what do I say? What do I say if this happens? What do I say if that happens? In fact, it's amazing how deep this has been with me. Like I can be driving on the freeway and I'll create scenarios in my mind. Like, oh, if a cop pulls me over and says you were speeding, it's like, no, I was going the same flow as everybody else, and it's like, I'm not speeding, and it's just like, I've got these things in my mind. I'm always preparing. So it's like you have to like clear that out and just be present and say, oh, okay. Instead of me wanting to defend myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into your world.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll like repeat, I hear you're upset that I didn't take the trash out.
Yep.
Is that it? And ask, is that it?
Is that right?
Is that right?
Yeah. And now you can take it a level further. You may think that I don't love you or care about you or care about what's important to you because I didn't take the trash out. Is that true? And that's like, whoa, that's going to a deeper level. Like, oh, yeah. Yeah, when you ignore me, and then they might say, reminds me of when my parents would ignore me when I wanted something or said something, and it's like, you get back there. So it's like, yeah, I get that it reminds you of that and that you want to be honored. You want to know you're important. You want to know that I really care and really love and support you and hear you and see you.
Mm-hmm.
So I failed here, or however you might want to say it. And yes, I really, truly do love you and support you. And I'm committed to being more reliable on my word. If I give you my word, I'll do it. And if I can't, I'll say, oh, honey, I have to come home late from work. I won't be able to take the trash out, can you do it for me or whatever?
See, that's so good. And it reminds me of Harville Hendricks' training. He said, all we really need to know is that we make sense. Now, years later, I've added two things onto that. And then what I feel makes sense, but also what I need makes sense.
Or that I matter, really that I matter.
Yeah. And so what you're describing is when you have to stop and do the no wonder for the other person and hold up the mirror, do mirroring and empathy. The other thing that happens is I think you have to get out of your limbic system in order to do that. I know I would, right?
Yes.
So I tell clients all the time, I said, you know who's going to benefit tenfold? Not even your spouse. It's you. Because now you get to operate out of your adult brain.
Yeah.
You're not the little kid who effed up and now is in trouble.
Right.
And then when we're there, we have such a myopic, we can't even see the other person.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're in defense mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You're triggered.
Yeah. We actually have a 5-step process for fights. And step 1 is when something comes at you like, hey, you didn't take the trash out like you said you would. First thing is to pause and take a breath, just a slow breath. No immediate response. And, you can let your partner know, here's what I'm going to do in the future when something comes up. So don't take this personally because they might take that personally, like you're cutting them off or, denigrating them. It's like, no.
Right.
Then what I do, and this is what we teach people, is I go to the place of love. I look at Lynetta, and the moment I do, I'm instantly filled with love. But if you're in a fight is starting and you feel defensive, you may have to recall like, oh yeah, I remember how much I enjoyed your company when we went on that trip or when we got married or, whatever, just go to a place of love that's easy for you to reach and just be there for like 2 more seconds. So you just pause, take the breath, and go to the place of love. And like you said, that's getting you out of the limbic, like, oh my God, how do I defend myself? All the alarms are going off. That stops it right there and gets you, as you said, into your adult brain. That's like step 1.
That's really great.
Mhm.
And that's where empowerment is.
Mhm.
You know, I was reading or heard something a while ago where she said this compulsive reaction is the same part of your brain that makes you jump out of the way when a truck's coming at you. There is no time to think. And thank God there's no time to think.
Right.
You'd be dead. You'd be squished.
Yep.
But she said getting out in front of that. And I tell clients, I said, you got to pack your patience and practice the breathing.
Mm-hmm.
If you react, I want you to walk back into the kitchen. I don't care if it's an hour later and say, I'm so sorry. I should have said da, da, da. And say the things, Mark, that you said, you know, you want your clients to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, every time you go back and do that, your subconscious says, look, dude, you can do this. You really can pull this off. Maybe not in the moment yet, but eventually we're going to close that gap between after the fact and in the moment, because then we're going to get disgusted. We're like, God, I keep walking back in this kitchen. This is ridiculous. You know, I really want to do it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so using our brain to help our brain can be quite amazing.
Yeah, and you can even do a hand signal that you agree on. Like the moment something comes up with one of you and you're triggered and you're like, either it just comes out, you know, before you can even stop it. And then your partner, you know, can actually like put a finger up, which means let's pause. Like you can just let each other know. This means let's pause for a moment, and I'm gonna, you know, do my breath,
Regulate.
yeah, and remember my love before we go forward. And it's like, if you have an agreement like that, so a little visual can make all the difference.
Yeah, makes it safe.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said there.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Very good stuff.
Yeah.
It's really normalizing things for people is what I hear, and showing them love and acceptance up front so they can feel safe. We know now that we can't do anything until we feel safe. All the trauma work is saying that now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Duh, right?
Yeah, well said.
I mean,
yes.
Well, I've always been such a huge boundaries girl because I think, you know, and I've learned the hard way over the years as a therapist and a coach that when people feel safe, they will do the work if they're ready, if they're ready to own it. But it's too scary to own stuff until you feel safe. Because like you guys were talking about at the beginning of the show is not feeling safe as a kid and having to put up all these protective mechanisms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you guys provide a really safe place for them. Plus, you talk about your own experience. So they know you get them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's extremely powerful. You're creating safety out of the gate by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been, my challenge has been to go back to my beginner's mind. Like, where did I first start instead of like taking them into the deep waters of the ocean right away? It's like, need to meet them at the shore and just sit with them for a while. You know, just sit with them where they are for a while, get into their world, and then they'll trust that we can, you know, I can guide them into the deeper waters. But until that trust is built, you know, that they've learned not to trust, and for good reason. You know?
Exactly. Wow.
So, yeah, it's just, you know, I think, well, as a child, I didn't have anything taught. Like, I didn't get taught how to do anything, the dishes or, you know, anything. I had to just wing it on my own. And so now when I'm working with somebody, I think I assume that they already know what I know. And, you know, I got to go back to beginner's mind and go, oh, no. That's not where they are right now. That's why they're seeking help. It's because they're not ready to dive right into the deep waters right now.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
It's easy to blow their doors off and run way ahead.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of that myself. I have to do the same thing. Like, wait, Mary, just because you doesn't mean them, right?
Yeah.
Just because you've already done that.
Yeah.
And so you guys have some really great resources that I wanted to mention. And I also think we should do another show.
Oh, absolutely.
Soon.
Absolutely.
You bet.
There's a whole nother road we haven't even gone down is And that is why you picked that same person over and over again. So I want to do that one separately so that we can give it enough time that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
But what are some of the resources that you want to share that people can go to immediately and connect with you guys and get some help?
Go ahead, Mark. You have all the links in
Sure.
your beautiful brain.
So whythiskeepshappening.com is like our main go-to place. And we have a lot of the resources there. We have like a quick survey they can take so they can see if they've got a bunch of repeating patterns that are going on in their relationships. That's like a freebie that's there. Then we have a couple things that we've already spoken about. One is, what do you do if you find yourself continually attracting the wrong guy? You know, where your girlfriend said, you know, he's got a different name, but he's just like so-and-so.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, no, he's not. And then it's like a few months later, you know what? You were right. It is. Yeah. So Lynetta wrote a guide.
Why this keeps happening with the guy.
Yeah, why you keep attracting the same guy. So that's available. And then I wrote one, this is more a man-to-man thing because mostly, I'd say the majority of people consuming this kind of self-development work are women. You know, men do it maybe a quarter as much as the women do. So I actually wrote a man-to-man guide, though women, of course, can benefit equally. And it's called When You Love Her and Nothing Seems to Work. You know, it's like, you know you love her. You're not at that, like, I'm done with this woman point yet. But, you know, the things just keep coming up. And you probably know it's got something to do with her past, some kind of traumas. And it's just so present that it really is creating problems in the relationship. I'll give you an example from us. Like sometimes I'll say to Lynetta, like, you know, what time are we leaving to go to whatever? You know, and Lynetta's instant response in the past would be,
why are you rushing me?
Why are you rushing me?
I'm trying to get ready.
Right. Yeah, don't rush me.
Don't rush
me. Or stop trying to control me.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
You know, and it's like, and you know that their response is out of proportion to, it was just a simple question. And in fact, you know, we've done a lot of work over it. And you know, eventually I said, honey, I just want to know what time we're going to leave so I can make sure I'm ready. And Lynn's like, oh. But we acknowledge, like, you know, we've gone in and we know what happened in her past that has created this. And actually, both of us knowing this helps. Mm-hmm. So I know it's sensitive for her and she's aware it's a trigger and we know how to deal with it at this point. Mm-hmm. So that's why I wrote this guide. It's got 5 steps. The first step is what we actually talked about. Just pause, take that breath, and then go to a place of love before you move on to step 2. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's where the active listening comes in. So that guide's also available there. Then we have a couple more extensive works. Lynetta's life has really been dedicated to figuring out how to resolve family stuff. And she's written 2 amazing works. One of them we just published. Right now it's on Etsy, actually. It's called I Want My Mommy. And it's how to resolve the parent wound. You know, most people would say the mother wound, but, you know, the parent wound. And it's like, man, she covers like everything about all those issues, you know, how to deal with the grief, how to deal with the anger, how to deal with the fantasy parent you never had, how to release that. I mean, she is so thorough. And it's not just a PDF. Lynetta actually has an audio version, which I recommend everybody get, where she actually reads each chapter. So it's in her own voice. And she's got 8 meditations throughout the book that she talks you through, like how to deal with the anger. It's called the volcano meditation. So that work, because, you know, all of us have the parent wound. You know, not everybody will admit it, but we all have it. Yeah. So that one's amazing. Mm-hmm. Then she also wrote one, particularly if
estranged kids.
Yeah. If you've been the bad mom, which those of us who had really serious deficiencies in our upbringing and then had our own kids, well, we probably screwed it up. on a bunch of levels. Like,
Yeah.
no surprise there. And in fact, you may have kids who don't even want to have anything to do with you. And she mended her relationship with her son, even though she did some really horrendous stuff with her son, which, she's free to share about. And she figured out how to mend that. And she takes parents through, here are the things you can do if you've messed it up with your kids, or even if you haven't, but they think you have, which is also common. So, and that guide, what is it called? Oh, Estranged Kids.
Estranged Kids.
Yeah. How to mend relationship with your estranged kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are the books we've written. Plus, we have a 4-part series that we're working on why this keeps happening, which really is like just a major work looking at how our pasts have created all the problems we have in our bodies. That's book 1, including all the medical issues. So we have a 4-part series that's not released yet on how all that stuff affects our body, how it affects our minds, our limiting beliefs, how it affects our emotions, and how it affects our relationships. So it literally traces trauma, if you want to call it that, all the way through every aspect of being a human being and how it affects these 4 domains. Because if it's in one of these domains, it's in the other 3 also. So that one's still in process. And then we're working on workshops. We, as much as we like writing, we way love doing things in person with people. Yeah. So we like the one-on-one coaching or 2-on-2 if we're working with couples. And we're creating a bunch of workshops that we're going to be offering. We moved into an RV 10 years ago. And one of the reasons was we wanted to be with people and offer our work by going place to place and going to things like community centers, religious organizations, addiction organizations, intentional communities, retreat centers, and offer workshops. And it's taken about 10 years for us to clear enough of our own crap out of the way, including, there was stuff like I've had in particular about not wanting to be seen. Like in my family, being seen meant you could get in trouble or get hit. So I've always had this, wanting to contract and not being seen. And if you want to offer public workshops, well, that's a bit of a challenge. So I've really had this push-pull for most of my life. And I've really worked on that to get out in the world. And now we're really getting out. And in fact, we're looking for people who want to invite us to their communities. We're mobile. We live full-time in an RV and start offering these workshops on all these different topics.
Yeah.
We love talking now. Now that I'm not afraid. It's like, we love to do this. And, we're such believers that the stuff that all of us here are doing and that all your listeners are doing, man, if everybody did this kind of internal work, all the crap going on in the world, literally all the wars and fighting and, all that nonsense would go away. If people would just learn and really get how to feel seen, heard, and understood, everything will shift.
And feel safe.
And feel safe in doing that. Feel loved and appreciated for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mark and Lynetta. I love the fact that you're helping so many people out there understand their relationships and make important changes to them. If you want to find out more about them and how to work with Mark and Lynetta and access all their great resources, just go to whythiskeepshappening.com. And this will be in the show notes to click on, is a free 2-minute relationship scorecard. Because you can check what feels true and immediately see whether you're dealing with normal friction or maybe a repeating relationship pattern. And it really helps people recognize when nothing that you do seems to work and that it isn't a personal failure, it's a loop. So go to enoughalready.whythiskeepshappening.com for that assessment. And again, I'll have that in the show notes. I hope you got some good stuff from our conversation today. Please pass it along to others that you may think could benefit. And make sure you take good care of yourself this week. And if you're doing this work, I want you to know how courageous you are and that you are really, truly changing your life week by week. So even if you don't see immediate results, keep at it, keep it up, keep migrating towards healthy. It does make your life better. And if you need help, reach out. You know where I am. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.